Hello again, YouTube, and welcome back to Veteran Mountain Man's channel here. I am going to discuss Article 1 of the United States Constitution, as I said I would in my previous video about the U.S. Constitution. So, as we discussed, the Constitution is a list of specific powers. And today we're going to go over the longest article, and that's the first article. And it forms Congress and sets the congressional limits. So the first section is pretty easy. All legislative power herein shall be beset in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. I think that's pretty easy, even though the language is a touch archaic, and I'm pretty sure you all understand that it's hard to debate. We have a House and a Senate. The second section goes over how to choose representatives for the House. It covers their age, which has to be 25 or older, that they live in the state that they're going to represent, that they have been in the country for so long. It also states that representatives and taxation will be apportioned based on the population. It also gives details on how to run the census. And here is one of those things that is very important. A lot of people bring up that the Constitution is racist because of the way it apportions the census. However, I'm going to give you a direct quote as to how the census was supposed to be apportioned. The number of free persons, including those bound to a term of service of years, excluding Indians not taxed, and 3/5 of all other persons. Now, the way that worked was anyone who's an actual citizen and anyone who was an indentured servant got counted. If they were Indians and were not taxed by the United States, they didn't get counted. If they were enslaved, they got counted as 3/5. Now, that being said, not all slaves were black. In fact, the word slave comes from Slav, which is a white group that were regularly raided off the Mediterranean throughout Europe by the Middle Eastern slave traders of Islam. Now, we're not going to go into that, but basically, that was not racist. It did not give any indication of race, color, or creed. It stated specifically, free men will be counted on a 1-to-1. People who are indentured will be counted 1-to-1. Indians who do not pay tax are not counted, and anyone else living in the United States will be counted 3/5. Now, Section 3 sets up the Senate. Also sets the term limit for senators, the term length for senators, which is 6 years. Sets up the requirements for replacing them, which at the time was legislatural choice from the home state. That is right. Prior to an amendment to the Constitution, citizens did not actually elect their senators directly. All you elected was your House of Representative members. Now, there was an amendment put in that changed that so that senators were directly elected by the states in a popular election, but that was not how it was originally set up. It also covers how the impeachment proceedings will commence and gives the Senate the right to try all impeachment processes with the Chief Justices of the Supreme Court in presidence as the judges. It also restricted impeachment trials to being just a removal from office and not anything else. Now, Section 4 is set up as to when Congress will meet, and this was set up as a minimal amount of time. The original declaration was that they would meet at least once a year, no later than the 1st of December. So Congress was never meant to be a permanent job, people. That was part of the reason we had a president, is so that the legislatures could legislate and go home and be with their families and work whatever jobs they needed and manage their affairs. And the president would run the day-to-day executive actions of the union. And we seem to have lost that. Now, Section 5 gives the House judgment on elections and also how to rule procedures in the House. Directs them to keep a journal with public information showing the votes and what has actually been done, as well as how the House can adjourn. It states that the House may only adjourn if both the House and Senate concur and the President is informed and agrees. Now, Section 6 gives how the House will be compensated, as well as the Senate, which is namely from the Treasury. It also gives congressmen immunity as long as the House or the Senate is in session from any crimes while in session. It restricts legislative representatives from serving in both legislative positions and public service positions. And this is important. This is why Senator Sessions is no longer Senator Sessions, but is now just Secretary Sessions, and a new senator will be put in his place. It's because he cannot be both a senator and a secretary in the cabinet at the same time. It actually violates the Constitution in Section 6 of Article 1. Now, Section 7 covers how the budget will be established, that it must start in the House, and the Senate can also create its own budget, and then they must reconcile the budget within 10 days, I believe it is. Section 8 is far more powerful. It gives 17 specific items that are set within the power of Congress. And these are specifically the right to set taxation, the right to borrow money, to set up commerce with foreign nations, to set up rules for naturalization of immigrants. Congress will be responsible for coining money and prosecuting counterfeiters. Congress will set up a post office and postal roads. Read the United States interstate system. Congress will also promote progress in the science and arts for a limited time, in which it may support an artist, scientist, or philosopher for a specific period of time, and then must quit supporting them. Set up courts inferior to the Supreme Court. This is something we were talking about before. It's Section 8 of Article 1 that allows Congress to create the federal courts. Define laws such as piracy and other felonies within the Union. Declare war, set letters of marque and reprisal, raise an army and a navy, and make rules for government and regulations of the land and naval forces. It also has the power to set legislation for the district. The district is specifically the location where the government resides, which would in this case be Washington, D.C., and foregoing all other powers not in the Constitution. Now, Section 9 states that they will not create any titles of nobility. No money may be drawn from the Treasury except by law. No duties can be imposed in state-to-state commerce or show favoritism between states that have ports and states that do not have ports. No tax may be laid on a single state's exports. No capitation or tax may be apportioned except by means of the census. You cannot create ex post facto law, which is basically law that makes you guilty after the fact. The writ of habeas corpus must be upheld, except during times of war and rebellion. And no change to immigration law may be made until after 1808, which they had all agreed upon, because at that point in time, travel was very difficult and very time-consuming. And you've got to remember, this is 1808 was not that long away. It was basically long enough for a good couple of sea voyages, assuming nothing went wrong. Now, Article 10 covers other rights and how the states must behave within the Union, including not keeping a standing army or navy, no starting wars unless invaded, no taxation of imports or exports unless approved by Congress and necessary, no creation of new treaties or anything else restricted to Congress. They could not create ex post facto law. They must respect habeas corpus, could not create their own money. All taxation had to be done based on census. But that's basically what the first article covers. Now, these are basically synopses of what the first article covers, and I encourage everyone to read it for themselves, because only through reading it can you truly understand what your government is allowed to do. Also below, there is a link to Amazon, where you can purchase a copy of the Constitution in ebook, along with the Declaration of Independence and all of the amendments. There is also a link to the National Archives and a link to constitutions.com, where you can actually view the Constitution for free anytime online. I am also including a link to my Minds account, that's minds.com, Veteran Mountain Man, where you can interact with me directly if you would like to ask me questions. Once again, thank you for coming by. Please like and subscribe so that you let me know I'm doing the right thing, and I look forward to future videos. Have a good day.